The docking bay of Valkesh Prime shimmered with alien light. Great panes of transparent crystal revealed the planet below, a swirling world of amber storms, while ships of every shape and scale moved in precise formation. Some resembled wings of living glass, others vast armored shells, still others gleaming spires that pulsed faintly with energy. From the open ramp of a Terran shuttle, Captain Elias Vaynar stepped down to the deck. His boots struck the metal with measured calm. The uniform he wore was severe in its simplicity, black trimmed with silver, the crest of Earth stitched across the chest. Against the flowing robes, iridescent scales, and plated armors of the crowd, he looked starkly out of place. Conversation faltered. Alien dock workers paused, their many eyes fixed on the lone human. A murmur spread through the bay, translated fragments reaching his ears. Death Worlder. Fragile frame, yet it walks without fear. Too new, too reckless. Elias ignored them. He had been briefed before departure. Curiosity, suspicion, even hostility would follow him wherever he went. Humanity's reputation had traveled far in only a few decades. Survivors of a violent planet, carriers of history soaked in blood and conquest. To the older empires, it was both fascinating and dangerous. A tall aide approached. Her skin shone like liquid silver, and 4 elongated arms emerged gracefully from her flowing robe. She bowed slightly. Ambassador Vaynar, the council awaits you. Please, this way. He inclined his head. Lead on. They walked together through winding corridors. The station's design was unlike anything human hands had built. Walls curved organically, faint light pulsing through veins in the crystal, giving the impression of moving within a living creature. Wide windows broke the flow, revealing the endless void beyond, where fleets drifted in orbit like patient predators. Elias noted them instinctively, sleek avian spear ships, bloated high vessels of the Zervani, angular fortresses bristling with weapons. Each was a reminder. Earth was small, and these civilizations had ruled the stars long before humanity lit its first fusion drive. The aide glanced at him as they walked. Her dark eyes flickered with something close to nervous curiosity. Do you feel the weight of their stares, Captain? Elias's lips curved faintly. I grew up with wolves in the forest near my home. Their eyes taught me to recognize hunger and fear. This feels much the same. She studied him a moment longer, as if weighing his words, then fell silent. 2 massive doors awaited them, guarded by armored figures with chitinous limbs and glaives of humming energy. The aide struck her staff against the floor. The gate slid open with a resonant hum, unveiling the Accord's chamber. It was vast, amphitheater-shaped, lit by streams of soft starlight pouring from the domed ceiling. Tiered platforms arced around a central floor, where a single delegate could stand under the scrutiny of all. Every seat was filled, scaled diplomats coiled around perches, feathered envoys adjusting jewel wings, armored insectoids clacking their mandibles. The sound of their combined voices was a restless, alien tide. The aide's voice rang clear. Captain Elias Vaynar of Earth, representative of the Terran Confederacy. Noise drained away. Hundreds of eyes fixed on him. Some gleamed with open disdain, others with wary intrigue. Elias descended to the center, steady, deliberate, neither hurried nor hesitant. From the highest tier, a tall figure rose. The Arch-Commissar Drenval, voice of the Zervani Dominion, towered above the assembly. His body was armored in obsidian plates, for clawed arms resting easily at his sides, mandibles flexing in disdain. So the Death Worlder arrives, he rasped. The voice carried across the chamber, like steel dragged over stone. We wondered if your kind would dare show its face here, or remain cowering on that cursed world you call home. A ripple of harsh amusement passed through several delegations. Elias clasped his hands behind his back. His voice was even, unhurried. I stand here, Commissar. That should answer your doubt. A few murmurs of surprise rippled, some approving, others irritated at the human's composure. Drenval descended several steps, claws clicking against the stone. Your species is young, fragile, lacking claws, lacking armor. And yet, here you parade as equals. Tell me, how often did the predators of your world feast on your kind before you learned to shiver in caves and beg the night to pass? Elias's gaze didn't waver. Often enough to learn there was no use in begging. often enough to learn to fight back. The chamber stilled. For a moment, the only sound was a faint hum of the station systems. Elias let the silence hold. He had learned early in command. Words mattered less than the space between them. From one of the upper tiers, a winged diplomat leaned toward her companion. "The human does not yield," she whispered, her tone carrying just enough to be heard. Drenval's mandibles twitched, irritation bleeding through his veneer of confidence. "We will see if your courage lasts. Human." Tonight the Accord honors tradition. Each world speaks of its apex predator, the one creature that embodies its strength. Our Leviathans, our swarm lords, our sky renders. Each is proof of survival, dominance, and worth. Let us hear if Earth can provide anything worthy of comparison. Approving noises echoed from several tiers, some slamming claws against stone, others flaring their wings in anticipation. Elias gave a small nod, acknowledging without committing. He understood the trap. The Dominion wanted him cornered, forced to name some animal, a lion, a bear, perhaps a shark, so they could laugh at Earth's primitive pride. The session continued, each delegate telling of their predators. A serpent large enough to devour Star Beast whole. An armored flyer that hunted in flocks across a gas giant. A swarm creature that reduced forests to ash in days. The chamber thrummed with awe and fear as each tale grew grander. Elias listened quietly, cataloging details, waiting. He did not fidget, did not interrupt. He stood at ease, but not idly. Every stillness was deliberate, every silence intentional. At last, the circle of attention returned to him. Hundreds of eyes fixed, hungry for spectacle. Drenval's mandibles curved into a grin of cruel satisfaction. "Your turn, Terran," he hissed. "Tell us, what beast wears the crown of your savage Earth? What rules your skies and seas? What nightmare claims the throne of your death world?" The hall hushed. The weight of expectation pressed down, thick and deliberate. They waited to laugh, to dismiss. Elias let the silence stretch, scanning their faces one by one. The longer he delayed, the tighter the air grew. Finally, he allowed himself the faintest trace of a smile. "When the time comes," he said, voice steady, carrying to the stillness, "you will have your answer." Drenval's laughter rasped like blades striking stone. He mistook patience for weakness. The council buzzed, eager for humiliation to follow. Yet Elias remained composed, and in that composure there was something more dangerous than fury. The chamber did not dismiss Elias that night. Instead, the council recessed with mutters of discontent. Delegates whispered to one another as they filed from the amphitheater, wings rustling, claws clattering, tendrils weaving intricate signals of doubt. Elias remained where he was until the chamber thinned. He could feel the undercurrent. Anticipation sharpened with mockery. They thought him cornered, thought the human had nothing to offer. At his side, the silver-skinned aide appeared again, for hands clasped respectfully. "Captain," you delayed their satisfaction. "That was wise but dangerous." "Let them stew." Elias replied calmly, walking with her back toward the quarters assigned to him. The longer they wait, the more weight the answer carries. She tilted her head, studying him. "But you will need to answer, and if they find it lacking, they won't," Elias said, his voice firm enough to end the matter. His chambers were stark compared to the grandeur of the station. Smooth walls, a desk of pale crystal, a viewport looking down on the storm-racked world below. The silence was a welcome change. Elias stood at the window, arms folded, watching lightning tear through clouds of color of molten brass. A soft chime announced entry. He turned to see 3 figures step inside. None were human. The first was tall and robed in deep indigo, scales running like mosaics across a serpentine form. The second was shorter, feathered, with eyes bright and restless, wings tucked neatly against her back. The third, smaller still, moved with a faint click of chitin limbs, mandibles twitching nervously. They bowed, not deeply, but enough to acknowledge. The feathered one spoke first, her voice quick, almost musical. "We come without sanction. The council does not know. But many among us are curious. You said nothing today. Why?" Elias motioned toward the table. "Sit, then ask properly." They obeyed. The chitinous envoy scuttled into place, wings brushing the chair. The serpent coiled elegantly, his robe pooling at his base. Elias poured water into a single glass, sat opposite them, and let the silence stretch until the feathered envoy's impatience broke it. You heard their predators. Creatures vast, armored, relentless. Each empire chooses such a beast to mirror itself. You withheld yours. Why? Elias took a slow sip, set the glass down. Because Earth's predator is an animal. The three exchanged confused glances. The serpent's voice was smooth, edged with doubt. Do you mean your weapons? Your machines of war? No, Elias leaned forward, hands clasped. What stalks our world isn't a beast that can be hunted or a leviathan slain. It's the planet itself. The feathered envoy blinked. Explain. On Earth, Elias said evenly, winter kills more than claws. The cold starves, freezes, and breaks. Summers burn with heat that cracks the ground. Storms flatten cities. Oceans rise and swallow land. Plagues sweep through populations unseen. Famine gnaws when crops fail. Everything conspires against survival, and still we endure. The chitinous envoy clicked his mandibles uneasily. And yet your kind thrives. Elias nodded. Because we learned. We adapted. No Fong, no Talon, no armored hide could match what nature threw at us. So we sharpened our minds. We built fire against the night, stone against the storm, medicine against the plague. We became predators not because we wanted to, but because we had no choice. The serpent envoy's eyes narrowed, studying him. You claim intelligence forged in suffering. I claim survival is our heritage. Elias corrected. Every creature on Earth fights. But only one turned the planet's cruelty into a forge. That is why your council misunderstands. They ask for our apex predator, expecting a beast. But Earth's answer is simple. He leaned back, letting the words settle. It's us. The chamber fell silent. The feathered envoy's wings twitched, uncertain whether to recoil or admire. The serpent envoy's expression was unreadable, but the faint flick of his tongue betrayed thought. At last the chitinous one spoke, voice low. You plan to say this before them all? Yes. The serpent gave a quiet hiss of amusement. They will rage at such arrogance, but they will also fear. Elias allowed himself the faintest trace of a smile. Good. The following day, the chamber filled again. Delegates returned to their seats, restless with anticipation. Rumors had spread overnight, of clandestine meetings, of the human's defiance, of the strange silence he carried like a blade. Arch-Commissar Drenval presided with smug satisfaction. At last, he rasped, mandibles flexing. The Terran will answer. Let us hear the name of your beast, human. Show us what rules your cursed world. The eyes of the council bore down on Elias as he stepped once more into the center. He clasped his hands calmly, scanned the tiers above, and spoke with deliberate clarity. You asked for Earth's apex predator. You expect me to name a creature, fangs, claws, armor hides. But you misunderstand my world. The silence thickened. Our predators are many. Lions on the plain, crocodiles in the rivers, sharks in the sea. Deadly, yes, but none hold dominion. What rules Earth is not one beast. It is the struggle to survive itself. A ripple of confusion spread. Some muttered, others hissed. Elias raised his voice, steady as stone. On Earth, winter can kill more swiftly than teeth. Heat burns harder than fire. The land shakes, the seas rise, the storms devour whole cities. Disease hides unseen, famine strikes without warning. My people did not conquer one monster. We conquered a world that tried endlessly to kill us. Now the chamber was truly silent. Even Drenval's mandibles froze. And so, Elias continued, his gaze sweeping across them. The apex predator of Earth is not a beast. It is humanity itself. Because when all others fell, we endured. We adapted. We fought the planet, and we won. And if we could survive our own world, we can survive anything. The word struck like a blade. Some delegates recoiled as though burned. Others leaned forward, eyes gleaming with sudden, uneasy respect. From a highest tier, a feathered diplomat whispered, barely audible yet echoing in the stillness. They made predators of themselves. Drenval broke the silence at last, his voice tight with fury. Arrogant, blasphemous. You would place yourselves above the great creatures of the stars. Elias's gaze locked on his, unflinching. Not above, beyond. Because, unlike your beasts, we know what we are and we choose it. The uproar lasted long after Elias finished speaking. Delegates shouted over one another, their languages a clash of hisses, trills, and guttural cries. The amphitheater had dissolved into chaos. Elias did not move. He stood at the center, hands folded, expression calm. Let them rage, he thought. Noise only masked fear, and fear was already spreading like fire through dry grass. At last, the arch-commissar rose, mandibles quivering with fury. He slammed a clawed hand against the podium, sending sparks across the crystal surface. Enough! His voice cut through the din slowly. The uproar ebbed. The human declares himself a predator of predators. Fine. Let us test if words can bleed. The murmurs return at once, this time sharper, edged with hunger. Delegates leaned forward, eager. Drenval's gaze locked on Elias. You will prove it. A trial, as all new species must face. Survive against a true apex, before us all. Fail, and humanity's arrogance dies with you. The chamber throbbed with anticipation. Wings flared, tails coiled, claws flexed. They wanted spectacle. They wanted blood. Elias tilted his head, studying the arch-commissar as though weighing him, not the demand. Then he spoke with quiet steel. Name the trial. The corridors beyond the chamber buzzed with rumor. By the time Elias returned to his quarters, the entire station seemed to know. Alien aides whispered in side halls. Guards muttered under their breath. Even the lifts hummed with speculation. Humanity's first envoy was to be thrown into an arena. Inside his chamber, the silver-skinned aide awaited him, her 4 hands wrung together with uncharacteristic tension. You agreed too quickly. Elias removed his coat, laying across the chair. They have forced it regardless. Better to appear willing. You don't yet know the creature they'll choose. He met her gaze steadily. It doesn't matter. Her expression tightened, caught between admiration and disbelief. You sound certain. Because I know how this ends, Elias said simply. It isn't about survival. It's about what survival means. The following cycle, the chamber became an arena. The tiers of seats were packed. Thousands of delegates and their entourages crammed shoulder to shoulder. The floor had been cleared, its smooth stone replaced by a shifting plate of alloy that gleamed with hidden mechanisms. The air thrummed with energy, anticipation almost physical. At the center, Elias waited. He wore no armor, carried no blade. His uniform was plain, his stance relaxed. He was the only calm point in a storm of expectation. From the high podium, Drenval's voice rang out. Let the trial begin. The human claims is kind, our predators born of survival. Let us see him endure against the side beast of Vorith. A hiss of excitement swept through the tiers. Panels in the arena floor parted with a grinding roar. From the darkness below, the beast emerged. It was massive, twice Elias's height, with armor-plated limbs and a body built for slaughter. Its forelimbs ended in scything blades, curved and jagged. Its head was nothing but maw and eyes, 6 of them, glowing with predatory light. With each step, the ground shook. The audience roared approval. The beast fixed Elias with its many eyes, screeched and charged. Elias did not move until the last instant. As the side blades came down, he stepped aside, fluid and precise. The monster strike cleaved only stone, sending shards skittering. Gasps rose from the chamber. The side beast whirled, screeched again, and lunged. Elias pivoted, sidestepped, let the monster's weight crash past him. His movements were not frantic, not desperate. They were measured, practiced, almost patient. To the delegates, it looked impossible. A human, unarmed, evading what entire squad of soldiers could not withstand. Drenval leaned forward, mandibles grinding. You cannot dodge forever. Human, the beast does not tire. Elias's voice carried clearly across the chamber. Neither do we. The audience stilled at the words, struck by the calm defiance. The battle stretched on. Again and again, the beast lunged. Again and again, Elias evaded, rolled, sidestepped, each motion wasting nothing. Sweat began to bead his brow. his breath deep and steady, but his eyes never wavered. And then he shifted. When the monster lunged the final time, Elias didn't retreat. He surged forward, slipping beneath a scything limb, driving his weight into the beast's side. His hand found a joint in its armor, there exposed, vulnerable. With brutal precision, he drove his fist into the spot. Bone cracked. The beast shrieked and staggered back, wounded for the first time. The chamber erupted. Some roared in excitement, others hissed in outrage. For the first time, the trial felt real. Elias pressed no advantage. He didn't need to kill it. He had made his point. He straightened, chest heaving, and stared down the wounded monster as though daring it to come again. The side beast hesitated. Its many eyes blinked, its stance shifted, and, for the briefest of moments, it seemed to recognize him not as prey, but as rival. That hesitation was all the council needed to see. Enough! Drenval's voice cracked across the chamber. His mandibles flared in fury, but there was no mistaking the unease beneath. The trial was concluded. The beast was dragged back into the depths by magnetic restraints. It fought, but its wounds slowed it, its cries echoing as the doors closed. Elias remained at the center, sweat-soaked but unbowed. His gaze swept the tiers above, meeting their eyes one by one. "You wanted to see if humanity could survive," he said, voice steady. "You've seen. Survival is not chance for us. It's design." The delegates were silent, shaken. Some avoided his gaze entirely. Others studied him with new, wary respect. The serpent envoy leaned close to his companions, whispering. He wounded it with nothing but his hands. "Do you understand what that means?" From a feathered envoy came a single word, predator. After the chamber dispersed, Elias returned to his quarters. The aide awaited him, for hands folded, eyes wide. "You should be dead." "But I'm not." She exhaled, a sound like a chord. "You forced them to see you differently. Some will fear you now. Some will want alliance. Others will want to end you before your kind spreads." Elias unbuttoned his collar, sank into the chair. That was always the outcome. But fear works in our favor. She hesitated, then asked softly, "Was it luck?" "That strike you made." Elias met her gaze. "Luck's a story people tell to explain survival. The truth is simpler. I saw where to hit, and I hit it." The council chamber was restless. Delegates whispered in tight circles, their voices sharp, their eyes darting toward the central platform where Elias had stood the cycle before. The image of him, bare-handed and defiant against the side beast, lingered like smoke in the air. It had not left their thoughts. The arch-commissar entered last. His heavy steps carried weight, and though his posture remained tall, his mandibles worked furiously, betraying agitation. He ascended to his podium and let the silence fall before he spoke. "We have witnessed a human's trial," Drenval said, each syllable clipped. "He endured what should have slain him. But survival does not crown him superior. It only proves resilience." A ripple passed through the delegates. Some hissed in agreement. Others remained still, waiting. The serpent envoy unfurled his long neck, eyes narrowing into slits. Resilience is more dangerous than superiority. A creature that cannot be crushed becomes a problem none can ignore. From across the chamber, the feathered envoy spread her wings in sharp defiance. He fought without blade or armor. No toxins, no tricks. Only his body and will. "Tell me, how many among us could stand bare before a side beast and remain breathing?" The chamber broke into argument. The trial was flawed. He should have died. He proved more than any new species has in a century. We cannot allow him to live. The noise swelled until Drenval struck the podium with his claw again. Sparks flew. Silence. The uproar quieted. "We will decide this matter," the arch-commissar declared. "Shall humanity be granted recognition among us? Or shall they be cast out before they can grow into threat? Speak your positions." Elias watched from the observation alcove above. His aide stood beside him, her silver skin dim with tension. "They're splitting," she whispered. "Some crave what you represent. Others fear it. This could tip either way." Elias's gaze remained steady on the chamber below. "Then it's no longer about me alone. It's about what they think humanity will become." Her lower hands twisted together. "And what do you think? That fear makes enemies, but respect makes room. One by one, delegates spoke. The hulking reptilian from the mirror thumped his tail against the floor. Recognition. Humanity has earned place. I saw how he struck the beast, decisive, efficient. That is a warrior's nature. Better ally than adversary. The thin-boned aviarine, cloaked in shadow, hissed. Fool! You would invite predators into your den? He said it himself. They hunt anything that challenges them. Grant them ground here, and they will take the walls tomorrow. Others weighed in. The aquatic envoy flicked water from her gills, voice bubbling. They adapt fast. Too fast. A species like that reshapes any balance. The feathered envoy countered sharply, which is why we must bind them with alliance. Better to hold their loyalty than face their claws turned outward. The arguments circled tighter, louder. Every voice revealed less about humanity than about the speaker's own fear. Finally, the Archcommissar raised a hand. Enough. The Council will not dissolve into chaos. We must choose. Humanity either stands within these walls, or is erased from them. A hush fell. He looked across the chamber. Cast your votes. The process was swift. Each delegate pressed a crystal at their station, sending ripples of light into the air. Blue for recognition, red for rejection. One by one, the chamber filled with color. Elias leaned forward in his alcove. His expression betrayed nothing, but his heart measured each flare of light like a drumbeat. Blue, red, red, blue, blue, red. When the final crystal dimmed, the chamber blazed half in blue, half in red. The tally floated above the center in stark lines of light. Split. Murmurs surged instantly. A deadlock. Drenval's mandibles spread in grim satisfaction. Then it falls to the arbiter. At once, all eyes turned toward the high seat at the rear of the chamber. The arbiter, a being swayed in veils of black and silver, had remained silent until now. Few ever saw its face. It spoke rarely, yet its word carried finality. The arbiter rose slowly, the veils shifting like liquid shadow. Its voice was calm, yet it carried across the chamber as though spoken directly into every mind. The human has shown survival not by chance, but by intent. This is strength. This is danger. The council is divided because humanity embodies both. The delegates leaned forward, rapt. The arbiter continued. Such species do not vanish quietly. History proves this. To reject them is to drive them into shadow where they will sharpen unseen. To accept them is to bind them to our laws, our gaze, our scrutiny. A pause. The chamber held its breath. My judgment, recognition. The chamber exploded. Shouts of fury, cries of triumph. Some delegates stormed from their seats. Others raised arms in salute. The decision was made, but peace was far from secured. Drenval's mandibles ground together until sparks cracked. His eyes burned toward Elias's alcove, hatred undisguised. Elias met the stare evenly, then turned and walked away. In the quiet of his quarters, the aide pressed him. Do you realize what this means? Humanity is now bound to their council. Bound, but watched. Every move scrutinized. That was the best outcome we could hope for, Elias replied. He removed his coat, draping it over the chair, the gesture steady despite the weight of what had occurred. They fear us. They respect us. Both will keep us alive long enough to decide our own place. She hesitated. And if the Archcommissar refuses to let this stand? Elias's eyes hardened. Then he'll try to break us. And he'll learn why predators endure. Later, alone, Elias stood before the viewport. The storm-racked planet below churned, lightning splitting its skies. The arbiter's words lingered. Recognition. A place in the council, but under watchful eyes, under suspicion. Humanity had been admitted not as equal, but as threat contained. And threats contained did not remain contained forever. Elias allowed himself a thin smile. The council had divided. That fracture would grow. Where fear rooted, control faltered. Humanity's place was not only granted, it was inevitable. He rested a hand against the glass, eyes on the storm below. Let them watch, he murmured. They'll see soon enough. The council chamber had not quieted since the arbiter's ruling. Recognition was law, But law did not extinguish fury. Whispers turned into threats, and threats into plans whispered in darker corridors. The Arch-Commissar was not a creature who bowed to verdicts. His pride had carried him through decades of wars, and now, before his peers, that pride burned like a poisoned wound. He summoned allies quietly, those who had voted red, those who muttered of danger and corruption. Together, they spoke of protection, but what they meant was purge. Elias sensed it. From his quarters, he watched movement shift across the citadel. Guards were reassigned. Patrols doubled in the corridors nearest his wing. The aide, restless, pointed it out. "They're closing you in." He nodded once. "I know." "Then why stay?" she pressed, eyes bright with unease. "Because leaving proves them right. Running would confirm fear. No, if they want to break us, they'll have to do it in the open." It began during the next assembly. Delegates gathered, their voices sharpened by division. But when the doors sealed, a new presence filled the chamber. Armored enforcers of the Commissar's guard took positions at every exit, their weapons drawn, not ceremonial this time, but live, humming with lethal charge. The council froze. The Commissar rose slowly from his podium. His voice thundered, stripped of pretense. The Arbiter's decree was mistake. Humanity is danger wrapped in flesh. I will not allow this chamber to sign our extinction. Today we cut the threat before it spreads. The feathered envoy sprang to her feet, wings flared. This is treachery. The Arbiter's word is law. Drenval slammed a claw down. Law bent to survival. He gestured. The enforcers advanced. Chaos erupted. Some delegates cowered. Others shouted in defiance. Elias, seated at the edge of the chamber as observer, rose. Calm, deliberate. His aide moved aside, but he held a hand to stop her. The Commissar's mandibles clicked with grim delight. Human, at last you stand where you belong, before judgment without beasts, without trials, without tricks, only death. Elias's voice cut through the noise, steady. You're not afraid of humanity dying here. You're afraid of humanity living long enough to show you your weakness. The word stung. The chamber hushed, tension knifing the air. The Arbiter rose then, veils trembling like storm winds. Its voice, for once, carried strain. Arch-Commissar, this is violation of oath. Stand down. But Drenval had waited too long, plotted too carefully. He gestured, and his guards leveled weapons at the Arbiter itself. Gasps swept the delegates. This council rots, he spat. If it cannot see the threat, then I will carve the truth in blood. He pointed toward Elias. Begin with him. The nearest enforcer raised his rifle. Time slowed. Elias moved. Not away, but forward. His body dropped low, his hand snapping up into the weapon's barrel before it could fire. A twist, a crack, and a rifle wrenched free. He drove his shoulder into the enforcer's chest, knocking him backward into two more. The chamber exploded with screams. Another guard lunged. Elias used a stolen rifle as a staff, swinging the butt into the attacker's jaw. Bone cracked. Sparks flared as claws scraped metal. Delegates scrambled. Some rallied behind Elias. Others dove for cover. The feathered envoy hurled her ceremonial blade to him. He caught it mid-motion, spun, and buried it in the joint of an enforcer's armor. The aide joined the fight, her forearms a blur of strikes and deflections. For every guard Elias felled, she toppled another, their movements seamless, born of desperate necessity. But still they came. The Commissar watched, mandibles flared in fury and disbelief. You fight like plague, spreading unstoppable. Or like survivors. Elias cut back, shoving an enforcer into the wall hard enough to dent it. The Arbiter's voice surged again, commanding, impossible to ignore. Enough. This chamber will not be battlefield. But the Commissar roared over it, hurling himself from his podium, claws extended. He aimed not for the Arbiter now, but for Elias. The collision shook the floor. Drenval towered, armored plates grinding, strength immense. His claw slashed. Elias dodged barely, the strike tearing sparks from the wall behind. Another swing, and Elias caught on the broken rifle, the shaft splintering under the force. The Commissar loomed. You will not infect us. Elias's chest heaved, his hands raw, but his eyes burned steady. We don't infect. We endure. He surged forward, driving his elbow into the commissar's throat. The alien staggered. Elias seized a moment, wrenching the fallen envoy's blade from the floor and pressing it against the joint of the commissar's armor just beneath the mandibles. The chamber froze. Every delegate, every guard, every voice halted. The humans stood weapon poised, predator against predator. Elias spoke low, the words carrying heavier than any shout. You think killing me kills humanity. You're wrong. We are not one, we are millions. We've been prey, we've been cornered, and every time we clawed our way out. Try to erase us, and all you'll do is prove what you fear, that nothing stops us. The commissar's mandibles clicked furiously, but his body stilled. His guards, seeing him caught, hesitated. The arbiter's voice fell into silence like iron. It is done. The human is recognized. The arch-commissar is stripped of command. Guards, disarm him. This time, the command carried weight. None dared resist. Enforcers lowered weapons. Two moved reluctantly to seize Drenval. Elias stepped back, lowering the blade. The commissar snarled, but the fight was gone. The chamber exhaled, as though it had been holding its breath for an age. Delegates murmured, shaken. Yet one truth had been hammered into them clearer than any decree. Humanity had survived the beast, survived the chamber, and now survived open treachery. Not by chance, by choice, by will. Later, in the silence of the arbiter's private hall, Elias stood before the veiled figure. You knew he'd try something, Elias said quietly. The arbiter's head inclined slightly. Fear always acts when cornered. What mattered was how you answered. And did I answer well enough? The arbiter paused. You proved what no decree could. Humanity is not potential threat. Humanity is present fact. From this day, none will forget. Elias allowed himself a faint, weary smile. That was the point. He returned to his quarters, the aide beside him. The storm still churned over the world below, lightning scarring the clouds. She broke the silence first. So what now? Elias looked out over the tempest, his reflection caught in the glass. Now we don't just survive. Now we build, and the galaxy learns what that means. Thunder rolled, as if the planet itself answered.